This book filled in the blanks on some of the missing pieces of our actual history for me. But let me preface that with this. Who is James Forrestal? The most notable things about Forrestal was he was the last cabinet-level U.S. Secretary of the Navy and the first U.S. Secretary of Defense. And some key points for me here are his background prior to becoming those things was a successful financier on Wall Street. So my question is, how could he be qualified to become Undersecretary of the Navy? He would then go on to become Secretary of the Navy in May of 1944 upon the sudden death of his superior, Frank Knox. And Frank Knox wasn't exactly qualified to be the Secretary of the Navy either, in my opinion. His background was politician, editor, and publisher. So once again, my question is, how does that qualify you for leading the Navy of the United States? But I digress. Interestingly, Franklin Delano Roosevelt requested that Forrestal lead in building up the Navy. Why? Why Forrestal? Harry S. Truman appointed Forrestal as first Secretary of Department of Defense. And I would like to point out Forrestal's positions as the first U.S. Secretary of Defense and U.S. Undersecretary of the Navy were created for him. With his created positions by Roosevelt, I think we can see this is the administration at the end of World War II that pushed the theater of war on the world stage for monetary gain and concealing the true Nazis. These were the occultists of their day, the chess players, if you will, representing the bloodlines that reveal new characters with each generation. So with all of that being said, let's look at some of the quotes from this book, The Assassination of James Forrestal by David Martin. Roosevelt was recruiting people into his administration via the recommendation of close confidants like William O. Douglas, who referred Forrestal and was rewarded with a Supreme Court justice position. Forrestal began as a White House administrative assistant to Roosevelt. And Frank Knox, then Secretary of the Navy, selects him for Undersecretary of the Navy, a position that was created for Forrestal. Does any of that sound familiar? Is that not some of what we are dealing with today? Anyway, it should be noted that Frank Knox died unexpectedly on April 28, 1944, with Forrestal being nominated by Roosevelt to take the position. So to summarize quickly here, Forrestal was an advocate for intelligence independence for the Navy, separate from the newly formed CIA under the National Security Act of 1947. Forrestal was also outspoken on many things, like Palestine, foreign policies, and the United Nations' involvement with other nations. His opinions were in stark contrast to President Truman's on the matter, and it was becoming apparent that Forrestal was quickly moving from friend to foe with this administration. So Forrestal was put in place by the Roosevelt administration. So when Truman came into office, Forrestal was already there. It became apparent during Truman's first term that Forrestal would probably present himself as a problem to this new administration. This is where everything changes, where Forrestal begins to see the writing on the wall, so to speak, where his reputation goes from one of hero to one of villain by the American media. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? When Truman was reelected in 1948, the die was cast for Forrestal to leave the government. What's crazy is that Forrestal thought he had a private agreement with Truman and that he would leave on May 1st, 1949. However, on March 4th, 1949, Truman made the abrupt announcement that Forrestal would be replaced with West Virginia lawyer Lewis Johnson. Quickly went downhill for Forrestal. But why? Why such an abruptness over 2 months? I mean, if Forrestal was leaving anyway. The book goes on to point out that Forrestal appeared normal in the days leading up to Johnson's swearing in, and appeared quite normal only minutes before he went out the 16th floor window of the Bethesda Naval Hospital some 7 weeks later. Wait, what? Now, I don't want to give too much away for those who haven't read the book, which I do recommend to those who would like the full story. Needless to say, I would like to make a few final points with a few final excerpts from this book. I think the obvious question here is, how could a man of Forrestal's stature, who becomes the first Secretary of Defense for the United States, just off himself, jumping out of a window no less, without there being so much more to the story? I agree in closing about the powers that be unseen by the general public. I also agree with Mr. Martin in his book that perhaps the most important power is the thoroughgoing control of the NOMA, or the National Opinion Molding Apparatus. Controlling the game, or the government, academia, the media, the entertainment, enables control of the NOMA. So the national eyes remained shut and the national mouth closed when the government kept its feeble official inquiry into James Forrestal's death secret for 55 years. And Forrestal is not the only person that our government has done this to. And why was it kept secret for 55 years? One need only ask, in whose interest was that secrecy? It was certainly not that of the American people.